3 years since launch and it's facelift time for the Nissan Qashqai, with this small SUV contender coming in for a few minor changes. And it all starts up front with this V-Motion front grille shared with the X-Trail. Underneath there's autonomous emergency braking standard across the range, and there's now 3 petrol models instead of 2. The question is whether that's all enough to keep this small SUV ahead of the game in a fast-moving segment. The 2018 Nissan Qashqai is still available in base ST and flagship TI model grades, but a new middle STL and limited edition N-Tech join the middle rankings. That new STL is designed to narrow the gap from base model to flagship, and it adds several new features above the standard 17-inch alloys, cruise control, keyless auto entry, and leather-wrapped steering wheel. For example, the screen moves from 5 to 7 inches and adds satellite navigation, digital radio and a round view camera, plus part leather heated front seats with driver electric adjustment. It complements a nice cabin design with more space than the average small SUV, particularly around the spacious boot, while the seats all round are very comfortable. Even so, the STL is starting to look expensive at $32,990, well above the $26,490 ST, but below the $37,990 Ti. So the biggest change underneath the bonnet of the facelifted Qashqai is actually the removal of an engine. The 1.6 litre turbo diesel accounted for only 4% of sales. So Nissan have put all the range with a 2 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, which makes the same outputs as before. With 106 kilowatts of power and 200 newton meters of torque, while delivering decent combined cycle fuel consumption of 6.9 litres per 100 kilometres. Nissan have said that steering, ride and handling have all come in for a retune, and on these Australian country roads it actually feels a bit firmer than before. In fact, despite rolling on quite sensible 18-inch tyres, the Qashqai can be quite noisy on coarse-chipped surfaces and quite a bit jittery actually as well. There's certainly not the plushness that you get in an X-Trail, but the steering is a bit sharper and it is a more dynamic drive overall. For our money though, the ride and handling balance for a small SUV should be a little bit more in favour of ride quality, particularly if you've got passengers in the rear. And in terms of NVH, you'd probably like to hold a conversation with them on these sort of country roads. In terms of performance, well, it's still firmly in entry-level small hatchback territory. It's okay for about $25,000, but expectations are higher as the price starts with a 3. The 2-litre engine is helped immensely by the continuously variable transmission. Nissan does a great CVT, and this is no exception. You can, on hills, hold the accelerator in a single spot, and the CVT will raise revs to ensure that the speed you've requested is kept. It really helps drivability, and for the average driver, they won't need to put in extra throttle to keep that same speed. For now though, in terms of performance and refinement, well, it's adequate rather than compelling. Certainly, the performance of a 1.2 litre turbocharged CHR is about on par with this Qashqai, but the CHR's extra low down torque thanks to that turbocharger gives it a lot better drivability and refinement. Well, 3 years is a long time in the small SUV segment, and the Nissan Qashqai arguably hasn't quite pushed the boundaries far enough to keep it at the pointy end of the class. It's still dynamic to look at and dynamic to drive, even though some of that dynamism comes at the expense of ride quality. What it either needs to be though is cheaper to fill the void of the Pulsar in the small hatchback segment, or to justify its price tag, it really needs a more powerful engine. Either way though, what was once a great small SUV contender has now only become a good small SUV contender.